Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley is a former U.S. ambassador, also Middle East specialist, and a distinguished fellow with the Atlantic Council. She joins us now live. And Gina, first of all, your reaction to what appears to be an agreement between Hamas and Israel on this first phase of a peace plan.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. The initial reaction is cautious hope. Certainly, as your prior guest mentioned, the importance of stopping the killing is paramount. And this is a deal that should do that. But we have to see what happens when they sign it, because we have to recall President Trump announced a few days ago that the bombing would stop, that the fighting would stop, and it did not. So we do have to keep a close eye on that. But a speck of light, absolutely.
It is so hard from up here to assess the things that Trump says on so many issues. We've certainly seen that with the trade war with Canada. And so it is with every story. And so let's take him at his word on this. Let's assume that the post on Truth Social is accurate. Is this a significant diplomatic or political win for Donald Trump?
You know, it can be seen in that light, but the reality is no. President Trump got a ceasefire right after he took office. And let's be clear, this is a ceasefire. It could be a first step toward peace, that two-state solution that so many of us believe is the only way forward that brings lasting stability and peace to both people. But President Trump said this is the first step, and we shouldn't look for it to be more than that, because it is indeed very, very complex, and we absolutely understand the positions of the two sides. Hamas does not want to disarm. It does not want to give up the fight for independence. And the Israeli leadership, led by the prime minister, absolutely is against a Palestinian state. And that is supposed to be the end state of all of this. So we know that there are going to be actors from the prime minister on down who are going to be doing as much as possible to slow roll this, to prevent that final reconciliation and two-state solution. That being the case, this could well be simply another pause for months, for years, but a pause until both sides understand what the end game is and that they have to meet it.
Let me ask you this final question in two parts. Obviously, there are raw, emotional feelings on either side of this conflict, and for good reason, right? And so presumably there is little or no trust. And so let's ask this question, first of all, from the Israeli perspective, coming just 2 years and a day after those brutal October 7th attacks. Do you think should Israel trust Hamas here?
I don't think it's about trust. I don't think that's going to enter into it from either side. But as Yasser Arafat said when I was a young diplomat in the Gaza Strip, you don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies. And it is going to demand leadership, both sides, leadership, and looking out for the long-term benefit of their people. Israelis are exhausted from this war. Palestinians are devastated from this war. Both sides deserve peace, and that's going to take courage, and leadership from both sides.
But as I understand it, let me ask you now from the Hamas perspective, peace here depends on Hamas agreeing to a process that would end up not just reducing its power, but basically dismantling it as an entity. How likely do you think that is?
Well, it could well be, but it depends on the definitions that are used, and we can absolutely expect the government of Israel to use the hardest one to meet, because if Hamas does meet it, that means the Israelis have to withdraw, and the prime minister does not have an interest in withdrawing. It does depend on wisdom from Hamas. If they disappear as an entity, that does not mean that the fight for a state is going to stop. The Palestinians were fighting for independence and a state well before Hamas even existed. And so that leadership, the recognition that people will stay focused on that. Palestinians are not walking away from their land and their aspirations. They will continue with or without Hamas. And so it does take wisdom and leadership from Hamas to follow through on this so that other Palestinians can step forward and bring the Palestinian people and the Israeli people to a better place than they are right now.
All right, let's finish with this. As a former U.S. ambassador, as you kind of reflect on this, and you haven't had a lot of time to do much reflection, and here we are on live television, but kind of sum up your feelings right now, this evening, probably less than an hour since you heard this news.
Yeah. Well, I am relieved that there's a possibility that the killing will stop, that there will be a possibility to rebuild the Gaza Strip, to allow Israelis to have their hostages home again, those who are alive, and resolution for families. But I'm very cognizant that I have been working this issue for 30 years and that others have been working it longer. We've been here before. Hudna in Arabic, ceasefire in English. We've been here before. It's going to take a different type of leadership than the Israelis have had for the last 17 years, or the Palestinians have had for the last nearly 20 years.
So good to have your voice on this. Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, a former U.S. ambassador and a Middle East specialist, thank you very much.
Thank you.